Hello Internet, this is going to be my Final Fantasy XIII Stream of Consciousness review. I already finished the game, but I loaded up an old save, and I'm just going to do this. Um, I I guess I'm just going to start with what I like. The combat in this game, like right here, what you're seeing, is very well done. I think it's the best combat system in any of the Final Fantasies up to date. I really enjoy the flow. There's only one real downside to it. If your main character dies, like the character you're controlling, because the other two are automated, it's a game over, which is absolutely bullshit. But otherwise, you can push your button and you can switch into different forms, which basically changes the class of the characters. And between, I believe, 8 different classes or 6, which is a lot of variety. It's so much fun. Fights are never the exact same, especially a boss fight. They get intense real quick. Despite the fact that it's a JRPG and most of the boss fights take fucking 12 years to finish. But yeah, the fact that your main character dies immediately, sometimes, like, if you fight a battle where there's a bunch of little enemies and not just a couple really big ones, sometimes they will all fixate on the character you're controlling and just completely eliminate her immediately. Especially because attacks can interrupt your commands. If they hit you while you're casting a spell or swinging your sword before you hit, it'll actually cancel yours out and you won't do it, which can interrupt your heals or your barriers or anything like that. And that just is very aggravating. But they have a really good retry system. If you hit retry, it just teleports you back to right before you got in that fight. I'll show you what I mean actually right here. Retry. Yes. It'll just load and send you right back before you got in the fight, so you can change your Crystarium or anything like that, or paradigm orders. But the combat, switching between paradigms and all that, is very, very fun. It really is the most engaging combat I've seen. And it is very good that it was good, because it's kind of the only real thing this game has going for it. Otherwise, movement, very standard. Your left stick moves your character, right stick is camera. There's nothing wrong with it. It has this weird center adjust thing where it likes to like aim right behind her, even though I prefer having the camera where I fucking put it, but you can probably change that in the settings. There is also this shit. They keep doing this lens flare bullshit. I don't want to see lens flares in my games. You don't see a lens flare when you look at the sun in real life. You shouldn't be seeing a lens flare as if the sun is wearing a shield of glass. It's this isn't just a Square Enix thing. This is like everybody ever. Anyway, before I go on a tangent. Paradigms, these are the things I was talking about where you switch between classes. Like, you just pick, you can have up to 6, and you can switch to them at any point during any fight. You can pick which one you want to start on. Commando is like this really big, hard-hitting strength class. Saboteur is a debuffer. Synergist is an ally buffer. Ravager is the mage, basically. You deal magic damage, and you boost chain gauges. Sentinels are tanks. They draw enemy fire and then they go heavy, heavy, heavy into defense. And then finally you have the medic, which is the medic. It heals people and removes status ailments. That's pretty standard for Final Fantasy, really. The way you level up, though, isn't like most games where you actually level up. In this one, it's very similar to Final Fantasy X. You have a Crystarium instead of a sphere grid, where you go in here and you pick a one. Let's see, which one do I need? This one right here. You pick a type of combat, Commando, Ravager, Sentinel, Saboteur, Synergist, Medic, and then you just spend your Crystarium points on the top right of the screen up there that you earn doing battles, and you spend them on the orbs, and the orbs give you stats, and you get abilities in here too, like this right here, accessory, gives you an extra accessory slot. Kind of a shitty example, I guess. Here, you get Flame Strike and Frost Strike, which deal, elemental magic damage, and Aereo, which is just a wind spell. And all your characters get the Crystarium points, so everybody gets CP, so nobody falls behind. which is incredibly useful because that's actually one of the big downsides of most Final Fantasy games, is outside of your main party, the other people are pathetically weak. Equipment is also a little different, whereas in this game, you level your weapons up. You don't just get upgrades from bosses. I mean, things do drop weapons, but they're usually shit. You have to upgrade them at a save point, and it is very expensive. You also get accessories that are very standard. Stats, magic, strength, gives you buff, health, whatever. It's nothing fancy. Abilities. Commando. But yeah, so you get abilities like this. Ruinga is... Ruin and Ruinga are abilities that are chain gauge builders that the Commando does. Because Ravagers build the chain gauge, I'll show you that in a minute, build the chain gauge in large chunks, but it also decharges just as quickly. Commandos stop it from decharging. Ruinga is an elemental attack that doesn't do physical damage, or it does physical damage, but it goes through armor, whereas these hit harder, but they don't go through armor. So enemies that are resistant to attack, you can usually hit with Ruin. Ravager, like I said, it's magic. If you don't know what magic is, you're playing the wrong game. Medic, you heal people and raise them from the dead. Then there's the really neat things you will almost never use. You have your Eidolon. I don't know why they call them Eidolon. They're actually part of the plot for some reason, but Lightning specifically has Odin. When you summon this guy, the other two party members disappear, and then you're just fighting beside him. He runs automatically, and then whenever he's about to go away, you push a button, and then you get to ride him and do super special abilities for like 40 seconds. It's pretty neat. You know, Fang has Bahamut. Fucking Hope has Alexander. Saz has Brynhildr. Who the fuck is that? Snow has Shiva, which is in this game is called Styria and Nyx. And Vanille has Heconte. That word right there. Anyway. Okay. I'm going to show you Odin real quick, and then we're going to get into what I really disliked about this game. Techniques. Summon.
Odin. Clear the field.
Yeah, clear the field. Anyway, that's what you do. She summons the dude, and then you fight by him. In the bottom right corner there, that SP number, as it sees decaying rapidly, whenever that hits 0, if you don't hit X before it hits 0, he just goes away and you never get to do the super special form. And any damage he takes chunks of that out. So you just want to keep track of that while you do your regular thing on Lightning. See, Commandos aren't building the change gauge very quickly, but it's also not going down very fast. But if I switch to Ravager, it builds the change gauge up super fast in chunks of like 30% instead of 0.1%. So a lot of the combat is balancing when to actually go full offense, when to go full defense. Get ready, and gonna go now.
Lend me your blade.
Okay, this is what it is. You can hit A and it'll automatically pick a random one for you, except for it won't pick Y because that ends everything. Or you can do the button combo. We got Stormblade, we got Lightning Strike, Razor Gale, Thunderfall. But really they're not very special. They're just regular things you do. This is a neat aspect of the game that you will almost never use, because more often than not with regular enemies, you either get one, like if the ones that are going to beat you are going to one-shot you, or you're going to just completely destroy them. There's really no middle ground here. And then you get your finisher, which you want to use when you're almost out of points. Doesn't make it any weaker, so... Everybody has a different one, but it all works the exact same way as this. And don't misunderstand, I'm not saying I'm not one of the people that actually think this is like a terrible game. I just think it's not the best Final Fantasy game. But I did play 40 hours of it, so I mean, it's not like I didn't. If I'm not playing 40 hours of a game I hate, I'm just not doing it. But yeah, whenever they get a full stagger meter, they get staggered. And then their chain gauge goes up even faster, and they take dramatically increased damage based on the percentage of stagger they have. I think that, like, you have a damage limit though at 9999. However, if you're in your Eidolon mode, that damage cap goes away. The hardest I've hit anything for, I think, was 395,000 or 647,000. I hit somebody once, which was neat, I guess, but it didn't really matter. The dude had like fucking 9 million health. It was fucking stupid. Anyway, story. Okay, this game's plot as a whole, the plot is fine actually. A lot of people say the Final Fantasy 13 story is the problem. It's not. The plot for this game is perfectly fine. I'm going to spoil it, so if you don't want to hear it, stop the video. Basically, you start out in the middle of a war that is very, very overshadowed, or undersold, I think is a better word. It's like the cutscenes are very intense, high energy, super cinematic, and then the fights are like, at that point in the game, just bullshit. They're just super boring, which is a huge downer for most people, because like in the ones that people bring up as the big Final Fantasy 7, in the beginning you're just fighting little soldier guards and little dudes. Like, it's not, you're not like in the middle of a war. In Final Fantasy 9, in the very beginning, you're just running around fighting teammates. That's technically teammates, and then you're just running around fighting little guys in the woods for a little while. Like, you're not in the middle of a war. Final Fantasy X, which is some people's favorites, believe it or not, you are in the middle of a war, and it's also very cinematic. The fights are go, 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 go. They're very well voice acted. This game's intro is just not any of those things. It's very high intensity 1 second, and then no energy the next. So the intro doesn't grab you. And then nothing's really explained either, because they put you in the middle of this war that you don't care about and just want you to roll with it, which is fine, but at the same time it's not, because if you really care about the story, you want to see development. And that's the real problem with this game, is we don't get development. The plot is basically humans are not really slaves, but unknowing underlings of a sentient god race called the fal'Cie, and every now and then they have their chosen ones, the l'Cie, do dumb shit for them, like destroy the world or change a kid into one of us, or, you know, just random bad guy things, right? Which is, I mean, that's interesting. Square Enix can do something with that. Like, that's not the worst plot. That's not weird mercenaries in a floating castle, at least. Like, that's coming from somebody who's beaten 8. Come on, dude. That was just dumb. But where they go wrong is you get the main character here, quote-unquote main character here, Lightning. You are given her with no backstory. You're just like, oh, she kicked some ass in the cutscene, she must be cool. Then you get introduced very, very quickly to... Let's see, I'm just going to put them in a party. Because you don't have to be at a save point to change parties, which is nice. You get introduced very, very quickly to Snow here, this big dude in a trench coat, who is apparently he's a super cocky, he's a big ass 20-year-old teenager is what he is. He's super cocky, he doesn't really think things through. It's a very stereotypical character. You get Hope here, who is just a super whiny bitch. All he does is piss and moan and cry and whine and just, everything's not my fault, oh my god, somebody help me. It's very annoying. I don't know if you can tell, but I really don't like Hope. He's very good synergist though, so I keep him in my party because I am a perfectionist. You're given no backstory on these characters until later in the game. And in the beginning of the game is when you need the backstory. You need to know why you should care about these people. And you don't get any of it. you just go through this intro and it's like Snow is married or engaged to Lightning's sister, and then she turned into a crystal because apparently when you do what the fal'Cie want, if they make you a l'Cie, rather than them letting you go, they turn you into a crystal for 1,000 fucking years, and then you wake up in the future because time travel is a thing. And this is all done in the first hour of the game. Like, Hope's mom gets killed because she runs into a war with a rocket launcher like she expects to live, and yet the whole game blames it on Snow. And then there's like this whole shitty arc where Hope is like, I'm gonna kill Snow, even though obviously that's not gonna happen. There's no dramatic tension there. It's just very underdeveloped. The core plot is fine though. You get characters like Fang and Vanille, who are people that have done their l'Cie shit. They turn into crystal. They're from the past. This is their world. It's been destroyed. And Fang is a perfectly fine character. There's nothing wrong with her, really. She's got downsides. She's got upsides, even though you don't actually see her downsides until the literal finale of the game. They technically exist. But if you make it to the finale, you're like, okay, she's a well-rounded character. Vanille is one-sided as shit. She is constantly portrayed as a secretive crybaby. That's all she is. She never tells anybody what's going on. She keeps everything inside and just is super sad that nobody loves her. It's very, very badly developed. Sazh, the black guy, most people say he is their favorite character or the most well developed. I don't actually think any of these characters outside of Fang are. Saz's whole gimmick is his kid's a l'Cie, now his kids are stone. But he doesn't actually do anything about it. He gets really close to actually making big decisions about his son and what he's going to do about it, if he's going to kill Vanille, if he's going to kill himself. And at the end of the day, he just lets the government kidnap him. And then he ends up going on this thing and completely forgetting about his kid, never brings it up again. It's completely ignored for the rest of the game. At the very least in Final Fantasy VII, whenever Marlene got quote-unquote killed and then Barret finds out that she's not dead, he brings her up. He's constantly worried about her. She is the reason he cares about what they're doing, because he wants to save her. Sazh never even brings her up, ever. Like, she's just completely, or he never brings his son up. He's just completely out of his mind. So I think they gave that character a gimmick, made people that didn't really think about it like him because of it, but they didn't do anything with it. Lightning's gimmick is literally nothing. Like, the whole point of Lightning is that opening cutscene, she beats people's asses. Okay, so now what? Does that make her a badass? Apparently, because she's a one-sided, she is Squall. They made Squall from Final Fantasy VIII. They even kept the gunblade, they just made it foldable, and that's who she is now. Why am I running in circles? I should be in a fight. The enemies, which are always honestly my favorite point of the Final Fantasy plot lines, like I don't remember the names from the pre-7 games. I've played them now, but I didn't play them, and they never really made an impression on me, and I get the order confused. But in 7, you've got Sephiroth and Jenova, both amazing villains, and Hojo, who you fight multiple times, and it doesn't ever feel like a chore. It makes sense in the plot that they're there. They're actual villains. They're bad guys that you want to kill because of the shit they've done. In 8, you have Cypher and the Queen to a point. You really hate these people. You want to punish them. You want to fuck them up because of everything they've done to us. In 9, you have, oh man, what's his name? The dude with the clown makeup and shit. I cannot remember his name now. I don't remember. You fight him in the rain. But there's a villain there. I wasn't the biggest fan of 9, honestly. In 10, you've got Sin. Holy shit, is Sin a good antagonist? Wow. And then there's this badass plot twist. And then Seymour, you want to break your foot off in Seymour's ass so bad that whole game. In this game, at one point you're given the bad guy, this dude named Dysley that's a fal'Cie in disguise. He comes out of nowhere, and then you never fight him. Then you fight him 3 times, but he's never developed. You fight him once, he talks like for maybe 20 seconds before you fight him. Next time you see him, you fight him again, he talks for maybe 20 seconds. Like, there's no development whatsoever. We're just like, oh, he's a bad guy, let's go kill him. What am I doing? Oh, oops. Forgot I put... Oh, well. Um... But yeah, that's just really, really shitty villain design. Because, God, the villains carry these games. When Sephiroth killed Aerith, everybody was like, no! And when Seymour married and then started making out with Yuna, everybody was like, God damn it! But in this game, you're just like, meh, it could be worse. It's very, very poorly done. The graphics are fine, though. It runs fine on computer now. That's what I'm playing it on, by the way. It's my PC. It... At launch, when they first came out with this game on PC, it was the worst port I've ever played, and I played Batman Arkham Knight. But, I mean, it works fine now. They patched it. So, but if you're playing the Final Fantasy 13 for the plot, that's fine. Just know that the characters are never going to be developed. The voice acting is mostly fine, but just know the character development isn't a thing. And if you want to get the story explained to you, more than beyond just the Fal'Cie are bad guys, and we have to kill them even though they want us. Okay, the finale of the game, the whole game, the dude Daisley's like, you have to kill Orphan, because killing Orphan brings the Maker, and the Maker will remake the world, and it'll be a better place. And we're at the end of the game like, we're never going to do that. We're not going to kill Orphan, because that'll make the world get destroyed, because that's what we're told. And then we fight Orphan 3 times and kill him, and then the world falls to the other world, like, we're basically on the moon, and then it falls to Earth-ish thing. And then Fang and Vanilla are like, don't worry, we got it, bro. And they turn into these monstrously massive, like, million-mile-long crystals and catch the planet. And that's the finale. That was the game. It is so fucking dumb. But if you want more detail than that, you have to go in here, go down to your data log, and read the chapter events. That's right. This is one of those games where in order to know the story, you have to stop the gameplay and read a book. And it is a lot of data. Every chapter has sub-chapters. This is all the shit I'm doing right now is chapter 1, the opening hour and a half of the game. I'm in chapter 11 in this save file. I've beaten it, obviously, but I just loaded an old one. It would take probably 45 minutes to an hour to read that through one time. There's so much there. And nobody wants to do that. There's a reason people have audio logs in games nowadays, or even video logs in some of the better ones, in the bottom right of your screen or whatever. It's because nobody wants to sit here and read through this shit for 20 fucking hours. You need to tell the story through the story. And when you don't do that, it alienates a lot of the audience. Also, you can generate these automatically. You don't have to customize them. You probably should, but you don't actually have to. Nope, that's not going to be the default for the rest of this video. Overall, I'm not going to give you guys some fucking 9 out of 10 or 1 out of 10 score. I'm not gonna be part of that society. Fucking no. I think it's a good game. I think it is I think it's one of the worst Final Fantasy games. It's not the worst Final Fantasy 11, Final Fantasy 12, but it is definitely a shadow of its former glory. However, it is definitely not a bad game overall. It's got a lot of gameplay in it. It has 0 replayability. There's no replayability. There isn't even a mini game, which is awful. But you do get a 40-hour gameplay experience, and you can't really cut that down much because I didn't go out of my way and do any side quests, and there are a lot of them. You just want to do them when you do them. There's no New Game Plus mechanic I tried. if you want to play the game, play a Final Fantasy just for story, this is not the game for you. However, there is a setting where you can put the battle difficulty on easy, which I ended up doing because, as I said, the plot was not developing very quickly, and I just wanted to get through it because after like 29 hours of 45-minute fights, which is expected, it's rote in Final Fantasy, I'm just like, bruh. Sorry, I need a drink. Overall, it's fun. It's definitely worth $20, which is what it's going to cost you now. I would probably recommend... I wouldn't actually recommend any kind of system to play it on, because now that it runs fine on PC, you can play it on everything. I don't know how the PC controls work. It was an Xbox 360 game, so I'm playing it with an Xbox 360 controller. I am not one of those people who has to play everything with a mouse and keyboard. That's just not... No, I don't need to do that. Overall, it was fun. I did enjoy it. I don't regret playing it, and I am looking forward to the sequels, mostly because I heard that they're better, even though most people that I talk to that are actually really hardcore Square Enix fans are like, bro, any Final Fantasy with the sequel is bad. Personally, I thought Final Fantasy X2 was amazing. I really enjoyed that game. So, yeah, I'm not gonna play it again, but I did enjoy the time I spent with it. It was a fun game, and I'm glad I played it through. It took me a long time. I bought it when it first came out. The game got stolen, then I had to rebuy it on Steam 4 or 5 years later, and I just now replayed it. But yeah, overall, it's a fun game. It's a good game, and I definitely would recommend it. So, I mean, if you guys want to play a Final Fantasy, and you don't want it to be Final Fantasy 12, which was an absolute clusterfuck, nightmare, terrible thing, play this one. Oh, and about the music, meh. It's okay. It never stands out. But it never is, like, particularly bad. So, it's meh. Alright, guys. This has been Disturbed One. I'll see you next time. Peace.